From Carl Frock pointing out Tyson Fury's size as an advantage over Alexander Usyk, to Tony Bellew switching sides between the two fighters, I'm going to take you on a trip of every single prediction that was made for the ultimate showdown between Fury versus Usyk. Let's start with Mike Tyson. This man is a heavyweight legend, to say the least, and he's down in the history books for becoming the youngest fighter to ever win a world heavyweight title, although that wasn't enough to become the undisputed champion, which was something that set the stakes high for this fight. And even though Usyk has shown his talent time and again, Mike was still going to go with Fury. He claims that the fighter has proved himself to be the best again and again and again.
There's only one man in the heavyweight division, and you're looking at him. I'm the Dauntless in the waters. I've knocked out the biggest puncher in boxing history. I've beat the longest reigning champion in history. I am the man.
In fact, he's got all of Mike's respect for being the reigning champ, and he's going to stay there until someone else comes up to replace him. Not to get your hopes up, but Usyk might have been one of them. At least a couple of people think so. Having said that, it's no surprise that Iron Mike doesn't lean on the difference in size. After all, he was a smaller heavyweight himself, but he marked his legacy. But he stands by his point that Fury will remain unbeatable, even if he fights Usyk. Having said that, the next one on the list definitely recognizes the Ukrainian skills. At the same time, he's not too sure if that'll be enough. Carl Frock thinks the Brit's too big for him. Sure, Usyk would definitely play it smart right at the beginning, some clever moves here and there, but it wouldn't take long for Fury to come close, lean on him, and start bullying him with shots. At least that's what Frock thinks. He claims the Ukrainian would have to fight through a couple of uppercuts just like Dillian Whyte, and that would be enough to end the fight.
Timmy, dig in all you want.
So his prediction is the same as Mike's. Fury would easily knock out Usyk. With that said, these predictions spark the debate. Skill versus size. What Usyk lacks in size, he makes up for it with his skill. But the question is, would that still be enough? And that's exactly what the UFC community is trying to answer. In fact, this two-time heavyweight champion made a pretty bold prediction. Hasim Rahman said whatever Fury can do in boxing, Usyk can do it better. I mean, he went as far as saying the Brit imitates him to the point he's gotten pretty good at doing so. And he raised a pretty crucial point. Most heavyweights tend to be pretty lazy and lose that professionalism. Talk about a lack of work ethic.
Second fight, you got drama in the third fight.
Better even than we hoped. Better. Wow. Sensational. A minute 10 into round number 11.
Who would know it would go like this?
But smaller guys, they've got to fight for it and show the world what they've got time and again. So they're sort of different, and the Ukrainian is known for his IQ.
To Joshua, he wants that Fury fight. He wants on the round. But still, Usyk finding the answers. Targets the body.
Safe to say, that's a pretty major part of his domination in every single fight. So the question is, whether his IQ is going to cancel out Fury's size. At the same time, it was pretty shocking to hear Rahman favor the smaller heavyweight, but he isn't the only one. The next one switched sides along the way. Tony Bellew backed up Fury's size for the longest time, but now he's drawn towards Usyk. This one hits different because the former cruiserweight world champion actually faced the Ukrainian in his last fight, and I'm talking about the one right before he officially retired.
He's really closing this gap with real, minimum effort. Good shot. Timmy lights out. Dave Colwell straight in the ring. I think he's going to stop it. And Alexander Usyk.
I think it's safe to say he was knocked out by the 8th round, and all of this happened before Usyk went on to kickstart his heavyweight campaign, after which he defeated Anthony Joshua twice in a row, destroying his career.
And still the unified heavyweight champion of the world from Ukraine, Alexander Usyk.
In fact, the Brit's back in 2023 with 3 Ultimate Showdowns to get back in the game. But only time will tell how that works out for him. Coming back to Bellew, his in-ring experience changed his prediction completely. At first, he figured Fury was going to be too big for his rival. But with a few months gone by, he's drawn towards Usyk. It's pretty simple. Sure, the Gypsy King style has evolved. I gotta give him credit for that. But as Bellew pointed out, he's a heavy-handed pressure counterpuncher now. And while that may be one of the best transformations we might have come come across, he's up against Usyk. That kind of weight and size always puts him on a dominant position. But Bellew claims that even with all that, he's still going to be a step behind Usyk. Why? Well, have you seen the man's footwork? Fury might be the classic choice between the two, but Usyk is pretty sharp himself, and he's not the kind of fighter you take lightly. Having said that, we've also seen quite a few fights where skills fall short in front of his size. And this fighter has picked out a recent one to prove his point. David Price can't get over Fury's fight against Derek Chisora. We've all seen how he uses his size to his advantage, and even I think that no one else can do that better than him. And the fight against Chisora, as David said, Fury towed over him.
From Dillian White.
So expecting something similar in a fight with Usyk, who's already trying to get over the massive difference in size, wouldn't be shocking. Having said that, David claims Fury would win on points. But there's another fighter whose prediction wasn't something I expected it to be. Daniel Dubois predicts a win for the Gypsy King. Now let's get one thing straight. As negotiations for the fight went on, it was pretty clear that Fury had way too many demands and Usyk had to walk down the road of compromises. Well, that's all for a reason. If he decided to step out, there were a bunch of fighters lined up to replace him. Sure, it wouldn't have been one of the biggest heavyweight fights in the world, but that doesn't change the fact that he could have been easily replaced. And of course, Fury knew that. And in many ways, it seems like he even took advantage of that. On the other hand, if you haven't been living under a rock, you'd know that if his fight wasn't a possibility, Usyk would move on to a fight with Daniel. And while he claims that the Gypsy King would overpower him with his experience and size, what would he predict for when he's up against the Ukrainian in the ring? All I'm saying is that we really shouldn't be underestimating his skills and technique here. I mean, it's what helped him dominate more fights than you think. With that said, a lot of people are still pretty skeptical about that, and that's why the next fighter also went with the most common prediction. Johnny Nelson claims that Tyson's gonna overpower the Ukrainian with his size. I mean, yeah, he's pretty big, or even too big for him. On top of that, Nelson pointed out that if he goes on with his mind games, Usyk isn't even gonna catch any of them, although that's something a lot of people might disagree with. At the same time, no one can ignore the mental aspect when it comes to such fights. As he said, it's all about how they approach it. So if the Brit takes over his rival using his size and physicality, it won't be a surprise.
Continues to whip those punches in, and Victor Loughlin says that's enough. It's not before time. Derek Chisora is beaten by Tyson Fury.
We're all expecting him to show that weight advantage, but maybe the predictability here might not work so well in his favor anyway. Having said that, only time will tell how that works out for him. Until then, here are some of the biggest predictions for the Fury versus Usyk fight.